Here we are again, people, with an Inno64 model, which I'm relieved about. I just did a review of an Auto World Dodge Challenger, and I was so angry at that thing. That thing looks horrible. That thing is garbage. I'm going to show it to you guys in a second. But anyways, I gotta give credit to two channels in my subscription, Studio64 and Skeleton Man. Both of them have the other color variation of this model done up by Inno. I went with purple and gold. I just like this color scheme more. The other one's a little bit too loud. Although it's weird because I like loud cars also, but this time I went with the more subdued look, although I don't know if you would call this a subdued look like compared to a stock vehicle. Anyways, we've got the S14 Rocket Bunny Aero here. Alright, so the Rocket Bunny is a line of body kits made by a company called TRA Kyoto. TRA is an acronym for Tops Racing Art, and they were established back in 1995. They also do the Pandem body kits, so they have two lines of body kits, the Rocket Bunny and then Pandem. So there's tons of models with all that stuff on there. I never really understood this. Why do these things always have this separate card? Why isn't this just printed on that paper right there? Is it because they can't line it up properly? It just seems like a waste of paper, and it's just gonna probably end up in the garbage. It's kind of a nice background though. Maybe that's why. Maybe they want you to display it like that? Alright, well anyways. Nice outline of the car. And then this is licensed by Nissan, so that's good. I don't see any licensing for the TRA Kyoto though. So that's odd. Alright. So it's not a good idea to lift things by the top because it falls out, but Inno, at least in this case, there's enough friction that it won't just fall apart and fall on the floor. Okay. Alright, so let's compare to these photographs here. Darn it. You know, it's really hard to focus on a model and then the photo behind it. I think that's as good as I'm going to be able to get it. I looked up the cost of this body kit, and the entire kit with all the pieces is only $4,400 US. Granted, that's not painted, it's just raw like fiberglass. So that doesn't sound too bad, because the only things that really are stock are the roof and the doors. I think everything else has some sort of piece that gets swapped out, or the fender flares get bolted onto it. So it doesn't, I guess, sound too bad in the realm of customized cars. Granted, you'd have to get an aftermarket wheel set as well, you know, much wider ones. Alright, so let's go to the rear view here. In this case, they're removing the rear bumper, because the founder, I believe Kei Miura, believes that, you know, the bumper creates a lot of drag, so it's just easier to just remove it and let the air pass through. So, okay. Hit the focus button again. That's as good as I can get it, guys. Sorry. Alright, so looking at this base, ooh, this is nice. I mean, hold on, let me get a better light angle here. This has a texture. It has a real diamond plate texture. It's not cold to the touch, so I would have to assume it's actually molded plastic, and perhaps there's a foil sticker or something. I mean, this looks like a polished piece of metal. Look at this, it's a mirror. So I don't know how they're doing this. Is it metal? Maybe it is. You know what? I think it is cool to the touch. Okay. It does feel quite heavy as well. So I do think this actually might be a metal base. It seems awfully expensive to do, though. I don't know. That's a mystery. But anyways, that's a nice... It's possibly the nicest base I've seen from Inno64. It's interesting. They're always messing around with the bases. You know, I think it's almost like all their different castings have a different type of base, or even possibly each livery. Well, okay, let's get to the model here. Now, yeah, I'm debating taking it off the stand. It's not going to roll anyways. You can clearly see that the tire is jammed up in there. It's not going to roll. So I'm going to just leave it on here. So let's look at these wheels here. I think they're multi-piece. It seems to be a trend here. I have the Inno NSX with the crazy body kit on it. And I think this is a photoized piece of metal on top of like a black layer. And then maybe this rim is a separate piece. Possibly it's chromed plastic, or possibly it's metal. But it's an effective way to duplicate a mesh wheel. But it doesn't allow you to have a disc brake system. But if you rewind back to that photo of the real car, you can't see disc brakes back there anyways. They're just dark triangular holes. So this is pretty accurate to the real car, it looks. Okay, so you got the bolt-on fender flares, and you got these little dimples to represent the screw recesses. This purple is really nice. It's a metallic, but it's not super flaky. Okay, and then the printing here. Is it a decal or tampo? I feel like they're tampo prints because I don't see any of the clear around the graphic, and I don't see any sort of wrinkliness in the graphic like a decal would have. You know, it looks pretty smooth, right? As I shift around, so this is great. You know, it's great because the graphics should stay good as long as the paint stays good. I have a Tandem GTR with the Echo Gao one with the crazy like 90s video game graphics, and that thing is entirely wrapped in some sort of graphic, and I can see air pockets behind it. So that was an earlier release, so hopefully in the future all Innos will have tampo prints because it's really good for longevity of the model. This is a recessed door handle, and then this is like an old school mirror. It's quite good. I mean, it's chromed out, and the stock isn't super thick. It's a relatively thin stock there on the mirror. I know that the other livery that those other channels reviewed, they have different mirrors, like in the regular location where this triangle is. So it's nice that this is different. And the other one also doesn't have an oil cooler up front. So they're managing to make two various appearances out of the same casting. So it's really smart. Okay, so an exhaust tip with some depth. It looks pretty good. So I don't know what that means. L7MW? I don't know. Okay, Rocket Bunny looks good. Tiny little rivets or whatever, screws holding that rear wing on. Great tail lights, you know, orange, black, red, black, white, black logo. So good separation of all the colors, you know, all the different light parts. And then, you know, the stripped out monocoque of the unibody or whatever, unibody stamped here. Yeah, I know there's going to be light and air passing through there. See? There you go. So that's a pretty realistic looking diffuser. Okay, let's move with this side. This base actually grabs my fingers. It's so sharp, this diamond plate. Well, look at my finger now. It's not really pretty to look at, I know, but I kind of feel like you can actually shave skin off with this stuff. It's such a sharp edge on this diamond plate. Okay, well, that's not so important to the model. Sorry, I go off on weird tangents, guys. My brain is strange. Alright, so, yeah, this tire's really jammed up in there. It's not even a circle anymore. It's like crushed. So, I might have to actually loosen this from the base. You know what? Boy, I'm gonna cry if I drop this model and break one of those mirrors off, but I think I gotta release the tension anyways. So, let's go to the bottom here. It's nice to see that it's an S14. It's made by Inno64. And it's a screwed together base, although to unscrew that last bit, I think you'd have to remove that wing. So I don't know if that's crazy glued down or what. But yeah, you can see the flat spot on the tires. So, you know, this was definitely screwed down too much. The rear will actually spin, but look how deformed the tire is. And the front, man, is technically, I guess you could spin it like that. But, you know, actually I can hide that flat spot if I rotate the tire up to the top maybe. I don't know, I'll mess with it later. Okay, so that's what the bottom looks like for those that were curious. Maybe no one. Alright, the front end. Tell me this doesn't look like an American muscle car. It looks like either a Challenger or a Camaro or a Firebird, or a combination of all. Clear headlights. They're not really domed. They're like flat, almost like flat cut off cylinders. That's interesting. Some black paint in here. And then the oil cooler looks alright. Recesses there. Maybe those are ducts to go to the brakes. And then one thing I really like about Inno as a brand, they generally don't skimp out on the little light details. So these little markers here, I'm assuming these are the turn signals. These are clear pieces of plastic, I think. Or am I wrong? Man, this thing is so small, it's hard to tell. I do think that's plastic. See how there's a little ledge there? And then, look at the other side. Yeah, there you go. You can see it went clear, right? It's clear purple dark, but then here. So yeah, they are actual plastic inserts for those tiny little markers, whereas other brands would just have silver paint in there. So it's nice. And then look behind here. It looks like there's a radiator back there, or possibly an intercooler. Alright. I'm not going to talk about the statistics or history of a 240SX Silvia because I've done that in my other reviews of I think it was a BM Creations. Okay, so I guess the interior would be the last thing. So starting from the back, well, look at these defroster lines. They're really good. They're really thin, you know? Here you can't really see them much, and that's the way they should be. You can see through the front. There's a rear view mirror. So those are great defroster lines. They pretty much vanish at this angle, so that's great. Great, you know. This seems to be a silver, cage with an X frame here. Let's see, no rear seats, or it's hard to tell. I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna hit the focus button, try to zoom in, and then I'll put the flashlight to it. Maybe it's better without the flashlight. Whoa, okay, look at the instruments. Very nice. Speedo, tach, fuel, all that stuff. So really nice. I don't know if it's a decal or a tampo, but it looks good. A little shifter there. The center console. The door panels are just black. The rear seats are missing. Okay, what about seat belts? No, unfortunately there's no seat belts or seat harnesses. It would have been nice. I've seen it on other Innos, I think. But at least it's got the gauges and the instrument cluster. Yeah. I think that might be the roll cage on the left. Yeah, on the bottom, touching the floor. Okay, well, I've seen better by Inno, but it's alright. It'll do. Raised painted black wiper blades there, and then the blackout is painted onto the window molding itself, so that seems alright. Yeah, just a better look at this purple paint. Really smooth up here. Actually, really smooth down here. This is usually where you get orange peel, the lower you go. But this paint's pretty darn good. Look at it, it's not too wavy. Or if you focus on the reflection of the pick, you see the edges. They're staying sharp, definitely on the roof. But even here, you can see there's not much orange peel on this entire casting. Which actually leads me to believe this is a flawless paint finish. There's nothing wrong with this thing. I don't see any contaminants, scratches, or gouges. So the casting was good, the paint was good, and it looks like all the tampos are good. What is going on here? I didn't even notice this in the first time around. Alright, it's just some a marker, I guess, but it's printed on. I was thinking it might be plastic for a second. Here's a better shot of that wheel, right? So it seems effective. I can't tell if there's a temperature change there. I think those are probably plastic rims. Okay, well, it's not bad at all. This is weird. it's weird in the fact that I don't have too much to complain about. I guess it's just the tires in this case. That's the worst thing about this model. Okay, so I ended up taking all the tires off, and there was a little extra plastic inside there, and that was causing a lot of the tire warping. So if you got some jacked up tires, it's always good to just take the tires off and then get some really small side nippers and just take off all the extra plastic. And then sometimes I'll actually flip the tire around, and that seems to help out a lot. So I also loosened the front screw a little bit because it was really forcing the tire up in there. So now I can spin it a little bit more, and also the tires actually look a little more concentric because they're not being squashed by the fender. It still doesn't roll, I mean, no. But yeah, just a couple tips there for you guys if you want to, correct some problems. So let's take a look at some other Silvias that I have here. I have a new spinner, just to let you guys know. I guess that could be a joke, but it's I got it off AliExpress, and it can take a D-cell battery, but when's the last time you bought a D-cell battery? But pleasantly, you can just plug it in with the USB cable it came with, and it'll actually run at this fast speed or this slow speed. But unfortunately, there's no middle speed. Ideally, there'd be one in the middle. But you can also see this thing there's an earthquake going on. This yellow car is rattling, so there's something inside this thing that's not smooth. I didn't pay a great deal of money off AliExpress for this, but still, it would be nice if the thing actually works smoothly. The other one I've been using is a lot smoother. Maybe I'll take it apart and see what's wrong with it later. Okay, so the vehicles we're looking at, this is an S13, also by Inno64, and that one actually has green seat belts in it. So it's got a little more interior detail, so I feel like well, I guess the trade-off, this has an intercooler, and it's got the additional diffuser, so there's more pieces on that one, so I guess I had to save money somewhere. These other two are made by BM Creations, and I like BMs because you can steer the wheels, and you can lower the ride height, so you can have a slammed or a regular ride height. And so these are both, this is an S14 as well, so these would be the same, and then this is an S15. The S14 has stock wheels. This has the aftermarket wheels that comes with with that particular product. So here's a top view. Okay. Alright, so let me get these. Oops, sorry. My camera's really low, so I have a really easy time knocking it around. This is the very first Nissan Silvia. This is made by Konami, and it's called the CSP 311. It's a pretty decent model. It's got a colorful interior, brown steering wheel, black dashboard, white seats. And I mentioned that Auto World that really had me angry before this video. It's this thing, the Scat Pack Challenger. So there we go, knocking the camera around again, sorry. Look at the front ends of these. It's very similar, maybe not in size, but in proportions. It's a very similar front end. It's just this one has, it's supposed to have more like 4 headlights, although it's technically got 2. So I feel like, Chimera must have been influenced perhaps by some American muscle cars, because I can definitely see it. Granted, it's not remotely the same size. But yeah, this is why I was ragging on Auto World. This giant black panel gap is very distracting to look at. It really, really annoys me. But I like to torture myself by buying models I don't need, or models I don't like. Alright, you know what? I'm going to let this thing spin on its own. Okay, well, so I like the Nissan Silvia, or the 240SX, whatever you want to call it, and I really like Inno64 because they put in such a great amount of details and extra effort that other brands won't do. Like ignition model. I only have one ignition model because those things cost a lot more, almost twice as much as one of these, and yet they, it's about the same amount of detail in my opinion, even less actually. I think Inno has more parts in their models than ignition. So that's why I don't do too many reviews about that brand. But I will definitely continue to do more about Inno, and hopefully that video will come soon enough.